inflation, recession, interest rates. Guess what? There's light at the end of the tunnel. Stick with me to the end of this video to hear all the things that are happening and why we believe interest rates will come down by the beginning of next year, possibly end of this year. We're going to start to see some reprieve. Stick to the end so you hear why. Okay, first of all, the future is not what the past used to be. We used to call a recession when we had 2 negative quarters in a row of GDP, okay? That's not the case. They've changed the definition. I don't know if you're allowed to change the definition, but we have. So now we are technically not in a recession, although we feel like we are, and I believe that we really are, and so do most economists. We are now saying the reason we're not in a recession, even though we've had these negative GDP reportings coming out, is because the job reports have been strong. The employment reports have been strong. However, that is about to change. So right now, we've had a lot of people holding on to employees, and we haven't seen the full cuts yet. But all of these other companies like Google and Amazon and the companies that you know, they are on deck to do job corrections, to actually let some people go so that they can right size their staff to what is happening with how many employees they need to get the job done, right? So when you see that change, that is going to really kick in that inflation / recession, all those percentages that are looked at to literally call that recession all the way through, and not like some people are calling it and some aren't. Like, it'll be unanimous, we're in a recession, okay? But aside from that, we are feeling it. We know we have inflation. We know we're in a rough spot. And we know that the Fed is going to raise the Fed rate 2 more times before the end of the year. It's going to happen in November, and it's going to happen in December. So everybody is unanimously saying the November hike is going to be 75 basis points. That's what we expect to see. That's what we believe we will see. And December is kind of up for grabs. People are saying maybe 75 basis points. We're hoping 50 because we feel like by December, the Fed will see that those employment numbers are down, that we are really in a recession, and we need to kind of slow down these hikes so we don't run ourselves into a wall. So I believe we'll see closer to a half. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. We will see, but for sure somewhere between a half and 3/4 again in December, which would be a total of anywhere from 1.25% to 1.5% hikes by the Fed in the Fed rate. Now, we say this over and over, but I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. The Fed rate is not a direct correlation to interest rates. Just because the Fed raises the Fed rate doesn't mean interest rates go up on mortgages. Interest rates are affected by that Fed rate when you're talking about car loans, credit cards, and another big thing is commercial lending. And that is a big factor too, because if businesses can't borrow money and there's illiquidity in the market, it slows down growth, and that is what we're feeling all the way around. Now, why does the Fed keep doing this? We have to control inflation. And the way you control inflation is you make things more expensive so that people spend less. The very definition of inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. And so in order to slow down inflation, you have to slow down the dollars being spent and hopefully bring the amount of goods up. So supply chains starting to have corrections, which is great. We've had such a supply chain problem. So if we have more supply and a little less spending, inflation gets under control. And hopefully by December, we're going to see a correction in these huge inflation numbers. And hopefully we won't need as big of a hike, and maybe we'll see that 0.5%. But whatever it is, towards the end of this year, fourth quarter, we believe we're going to start to see inflation get under control. And the main reason is, and this is the point I wanted you to stick with me about, is when you're looking at inflation numbers, it's looked at year over year, month to month. So for instance, right now, if we're in October, we're going to look at October of 21 versus October of 22. We're going to see the difference in the inflation numbers. And if it's extreme, everybody panics. And that's why you're seeing all these hikes these last quarters. So now, as we're getting closer to November and December, and we look at November and December in 21, and we compare them to 22, we see that they were higher back then compared to where we are. You're not going to see this huge variance. You're going to see a small gap. And that's going to calm nerves. That's going to make people feel like inflation's getting back under control a little bit and hopefully not have to have these continued hikes. And we definitely expect by the first quarter of next year to start seeing some corrections here, and hopefully rates will come down. Because when inflation's under control, interest rates come down. When inflation is high, interest rates are up. Again, we raise rates to control inflation. So I hope that makes sense. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Stick with me. Let's hang in there. We got to all buckle down and get through this thing together. And we do expect to see interest rates coming down, inflation coming down, end of the year, beginning of next. And that in turn will help interest rates. Michelle Oddo, the Oddo Group, give us a call if you want to talk numbers. We love to talk economics, inflation, interest rates, all those things. Give us a call.